Hi everyone, this is Jay with dailytexture.com. This morning, as I'm having my coffee, I'm working on a piece of art with the new Savannah collection. And let me just take you through that. I have Savannah 1 and Savannah 2, and they each have 55 painterly background scenes suitable for animals you might find in the savannah. Hot, dry, dusty scenes. This is just a quick glimpse of what's in this collection. And Savannah 2 is an extension of this. It's great for your African animals, your zoo animals, your safari park animals, which I have a lot of those photos because I've been to the zoo a lot and I've been to the safari park a lot where I live. But I haven't been to the savannah. So by doing backgrounds for different places, I can input my animals into those backgrounds, and birds. And these are some examples I did. This is a close-up of the lion, and I used one of the backgrounds from the collection just behind her to kind of give her a different look. And then this guy, he was actually sitting on a rock, so I worked him into sitting on a rock in one of the backgrounds, and then I cropped it because this background was putting him a lot farther away. And here's my baby giraffe, also from the zoo. And I decided to go through here to pick one for the cheetah, and I found this one, and I really like. The cheetah is walking toward me in the picture, the initial picture, and I really like this dust right here. So I decided to choose this one, number 2. So I have number 2 opened underneath the cheetah. And I'm going to mask away the background from the cheetah. Just kind of quickly here. I have a lot of, when I go shoot anything, I have telephoto lenses, so I have a lot of close-ups, and I've done a lot of animal and bird portraits, close-ups over the years, as you all know. But I also take a small lens and I shoot full body shots. And I'm working with those a little bit more these days to create these full wildlife scenes. I like the portraits, but I was kind of, I don't know, I'm not getting bored with them. I just wanted something different. So I've been working more with the full body scenes and using some of these smaller photos, or not smaller, but far away photos where it shows the full body of the animal or the bird. In this case, it's animal. So I'm just quickly masking this away to get him integrated into this background. And I'll just get as close as I can by adjusting my brush size. And I'm still masking at this point at full opacity, just to try to get the subject removed from the initial photo. And then as I get closer to the body, I'll zoom in and I'll make the brush size even smaller to go up, right up to the edge. At this point, I try not to go over the edge. Just try to get it as close as possible. Whoops, might have got some of the leg there. Let's go over here and do this other side of the head. But these backgrounds, I did the Dutch Masters, released that last month. That set's been very popular. And 2 more sets of great backgrounds there. And I've decided just to start working with creating different scenic backgrounds from different places, and I try to match up the type of animal that would be in the scene, or bird, or people, or objects if you're into that. I try to match it up, but I mean, you're the artist, so if you decide you want to put something that doesn't go in this environment, that's perfectly fine. It's just all up to what you want to create. And I know it looks kind of choppy around the background right now, but one thing I always do once I place the subject is go get a bigger brush and lower the opacity and go around the edges to blend in the edges. Now, I haven't edited this guy at all. This is the straight photo. It's from the zoo photo pack. And obviously he looks a little bit awkward right now because he's super huge. And he's also tilted a little bit. I'm going to give him a little clarity adjustment on his layer. And this should help his fur become a little bit more defined. Yes, and it adjusted his colors just a little bit. So I often will blend the photo first without making any adjustments to the photo layer, and then as I'm working on it, we'll make adjustments to color, to clarity, things like that, because I want him to tie in the background. I don't want him to have, say, too cool of tones in the background be real super warm, which he did there. Now that I've given him that adjustment, he's warmed up a little bit. And if I wanted to, I could adjust the saturation on his layer and warm him up even a little more. Like that. And I see I missed a masking area there, so let's go back between these legs. You see that little area right there? Between those legs, I'm going to go back to the mask and go with a little smaller brush. Maybe not quite that small. And get in there. And I lost some of this leg right here, so I'm going to bring that back by going the opposite direction with my mask. And I do have a little greenery around the toes here. And, oops, I need to go the other way. That will disappear once I go around him with the soft brush. That will disappear more. Alright, that's close. So now I'm going to resize him down and place him where I want and move him around a little bit. Okay, now when I resize him, you can see my mask didn't get the total edges of the photo. So I'm going to get a bigger brush and just go around those edges like so. All around where the photo edges would be. And just kind of get up close again in case I missed any spots. Alright, now let's go back to resizing. Because I want to place him as if, as you resize, you can see different spots where you missed on the masking. Or at least I can. So, now, if you're using Photoshop, they've got new masking things in there that make it this much more accurate than what I'm doing. So you don't have to worry about that as much. But in mine, I can see, as I resize him, I can see the different spots. Alright. how big do I want him to be? And where do I want to put him? If I leave him bigger, I need to put him closer. If I make him smaller, I can put him farther away. And I do like to mask away the bottom of the feet and put them in grassy areas, because it's really hard to get those completely accurate. So I've put him where I want to put him, but he's still a little tilted, so I'm going to rotate him just a tad to straighten him up. Now I've rotated too much, so undo that. There. And I can still see a little masking area somewhere over here that I missed. Alright, so now he's in position where I want him. So I'm going to enlarge this so I can work on that area. I'm going to look at his colors a little bit here. I think I may brighten him up a little to better match the background. And I think I'm going to mask away the edges now to soften these edges around him so he'll blend in better. So I lowered the opacity of the brush, made a smaller brush, and just gently go around the edges of the fur to blend that in with the background. So there's no hard edge showing. It's just softly integrating the background and the subject. I'll just go all the way around his edges. Anywhere where I see it's a real hard edge. You can also alter color a little by blending away some of these edges with the soft brush, because the color tones of his shadows are quite blue. So by masking away on these undersides, I'm bringing some of the golden color of the background into that. And like the tail area here, just gently sweeping over those edges and tapping. There's a hard edge right there. Blend that away. Even over that little spot in the middle of the two legs. Now I'm going to mask these feet into the grass. Still with the low opacity. I'm just going to tap around there to gently get that foot in the grass. Bring the grass up over the foot. And then here, get some of that grassy area over those feet. And here, just soften that. And if you do too much, you can go back the other way with the mask. So let's look at that. And if you're not sure what's in that background right there, you can pop that away. So this foot is really not in the darker area. So that foot would need to show a little more, and that one. This one is being placed in the darker area, so the grass can come right across right there as if it's coming across his foot. And then this, if you do too much, you can bring some of that back to tuck in the foot in the grass area. There. And then I can bring some of this foot back. These toes. I'm just tapping still with a low opacity and doing this very slowly. And I still have some of my greenery showing, but I will fix that. And get this foot in there too. Alright, let's go back with a higher opacity, more full opacity, and trim this one up. Try to get in those green areas so it's not so green looking. And then lower opacity. Again, a big brush, and just kind of tap over it to soften it, which helps tone it down. I don't want it to be too soft, so if I get it too soft, I go back the other way. Like here, I want that toenail to show in these toes. But it helps to soften up that greenery area that was still appearing around the toes. Now I could change the color of the green to make it more golden and blend in with that. Alright, then I go back out and zoom out and look at it. I still think he might need to be tilted a little more. So let's look if I can do that. It's difficult on this old software, but we'll try. Rotate and just a gentle tap there. And then zoom back out. Okay, that's a little better. Now, one thing that's important to do, I think, when you're doing this is if the animal was really standing here, there would be some shadowing under these feet. So I like to go to the background layer at that point and using a burn and dodge brush in a low size to fit in with the feet area, and a low opacity at first. I don't want it to get too dark, and I'm just gonna maybe a little bit more than that. And I'm actually working on the background layer now, darkening these areas under these feet, so there's like a little shadow there. And then if you get too dark, you can go back the other direction or use a dodge brush to brighten that back up a little bit. And then I zoom all the way out to see how it's looking. And just kind of play with that burn and dodge brush. So he's actually got a little shadow there now. Now another thing I like to do, I like the dust in the background, and I want to add some more dust. So for that, I use the Screen Overlays collection, and I have dust and dirt, specks and fog. All of it can work together. It doesn't matter what it says it is. But I'm going to grab some dust here and open that. And of course, that's super huge. I'm going to change it to screen mode. Now it's put dust all over in front of him. As if you adjust the opacity, you can see the difference there. What I'm going to do is rescale this layer down, because I want the dust to be kind of coming in front of him and be in line with the size that's behind him, or that will fit with him. And if you change it to different layer modes, you can see exactly where it is. Well, I thought you could. Okay, we'll just play with opacity. You can see how strong that is. That might be a little too big and too strong, so I'm going to pull it down a little more in size. And now you can see the edges of my layer. It might be kind of faint, but I'm just going to mask away the edges of that particular layer so they're not showing. And you can see the little mask right there. And grab my move tool and kind of scoot that dust around where I want it. Resize it up. Okay, let's resize it up a little. There we go. And let's mask away at a lower opacity some of this extra dust here. But it's going over his legs now. See that? So it looks like he's got dust. The problem is the dust is white. Now, I say on the Screen Overlays page, you can change color tones of dust by putting a color layer over top. In this software, I can just change it by a temperature adjustment, which you may have that too. So I'm going to slide it to the warmer temperature, which gives it a more golden instead of white glow. And it's a little bit strong over him, so I can play with opacity here, like so, and just kind of get it where I want it. But that gives a little dust over him. And I'm going to go grab another one of those layers. Let's try the fog. Now it's super huge. See, that's real white as well, but I'm going to resize this fog down and bring that down as well, like so, to kind of match with his size. I'm going to adjust that warmth again. And on this one, I'm going to adjust the exposure down a little to kind of darken that fog. And if you tap your layer on and off, you can see what it's doing where. I think that's a little strong, so I'm going to take that back off. I like the first one. It gives a little bit of a fogginess around him. If I adjust the exposure on that, it brings it down and kind of disappears. See? So I'm going to leave the exposure where it was. But it's a little bright. On the other hand, it helps blend him in a little. Maybe just lower the opacity of it so it's not full strength, about half and half. There we go. And if you want to do a little more masking, then you can tap in some of these areas where you might want to not have that effect as strong. But in this dusty environment where there's dust obviously blowing in the background, I don't necessarily want him to be free of dust. So I want to bring in a little dust in this area so that he ties in better. And you just mask away parts you don't want. And play with opacity. But it just kind of goes over his legs and softens those a little bit. And by having the warmer color tone, see, if you go toward the blue side, it gets real blue. So by adjusting the color tone of the dust, it helps to tie it in better. And I still want to mask away in some of that grass spot of that layer, because the dust wouldn't be super strong down here at the feet. But it's kind of like it's coming across, drifting across. And I could even add some more. Let's try this other dust layer and put it on screen. Before resizing, I'm going to tone it more golden. And now I'll resize it and see where that might be. And these screen overlays are also helpful, say, if you want to soften that background. In fact, what if we brought some dust onto this side? Or as a whole. Let me resize that back. So that's as a whole. I'm just sliding it to see about how strong I might want it to be. So you could soften the whole image like this. And I'm not sure if this particular dust is going to work on that side. Maybe on this side. Let's put the strength back up. Alright. I'm going to mask away the edges of that layer so there's no hard edge showing. And I can see my little mask here. And then at a lower opacity and a big brush, I'm just going to tap across the top a little to take some of that dust layer away, and even down here on the bottom in this corner. Now let's turn it off and on. I'm still working at a low opacity, so I'm doing a lot of brushing but that's how I like to work. Okay, let's pull this slider around. So that even gives him, it's very subtle. I'm not even sure if you all can see what I've done, but it just gives it a little subtle adjustment there. And I've gotten him too big here. Gives a subtle adjustment to kind of give him a little fog there. So that's off, on, off, on, off, on. I may lower the opacity of this one a little. I don't want it to be super duper strong. That's pretty good. Now, I would like to give it a more painterly effect using some canvas. So from the Painterly Canvas Overlays collection, I have opened up some canvas to play with. And I believe, let's pull this one to the top. Okay, that's one I set on multiply at 40%. And I duplicated that layer and put it on top and set it on soft light at 44, which gives a strong canvas look to the whole image. And that might be a little strong. So if you just have it on soft light, it's very gentle, but once you add the multiply layer, it's stronger. But I think it's a little too strong. So I'm going to lower the multiply layer to 20%, and then go to the soft light layer and even lower that to 20%. Now let's zoom out. So that gives it a canvas over top of everything, and kind of gives it the look of a painting, just by adding the canvas. It's kind of, and I'll shut these off so you can see the difference. It's very subtle at these low opacities, but I like to do the combination of multiply and soft light, and I try to keep their opacities similar because that to me helps the canvas show up the best. So I can turn this off and it's like this, or you can turn it on and it's like this. I like to save it both ways. So if I decide I don't want the canvas on there, I can have it like this. And then if I want the canvas look, I can put it like this. It just depends on what you want. But that kind of brings everything together and gives it a whole painterly look. I'm going to turn them off right now because I'm looking at this area here under the feet again. And I do think that on the background layer, there needs to be a little bit more shadow there in that area. So I'm going to go to the burn brush and even a little bigger area of shadow, sweeping that way, and maybe even in front of him. And then if it's too much, I'll go back the other way and go to the dodge side, which brightens back up. A little bit smaller. It's very important, I think, to get the shadow of the feet in there to make it look like it belongs better. Now turn these canvas back on. Now, yeah, I like that. I wonder if he could be tilted just a tad more. That would probably affect everything I've done underneath, but the good thing is the undo, Control Z. I'm going to tilt just a little bit more. Whoa, that's too much. How about that? That's pretty close. Just a slight degree change. So now, turn the canvas back on. Another thing I like to do sometimes to adjust the colors as a whole is duplicate the background, then pull that on top of the cheetah and change its layer mode to a different one. And I really like soft light, but that really pumps up the colors. As I slide it, you can see what it's doing, darkening. And if it saturates it too much, you can always pull down the saturation on that layer, which will give you the shading without adjusting the colors too much. So if I wanted to pump up that contrast a little, I can do that just by having this layer on top. You can also adjust the contrast of everything as a whole afterwards. And if you want the saturation to be a little really strong, you can raise it up. I didn't want it to be full saturation, but I didn't want it to be none, so I'm going to pull it down just a little. And if you turn it off and on, you can see that difference. But that darkens this a little bit and just kind of gives it a little more contrast. And then you can play with the opacity of that. And I don't need much, just a little. So maybe the 28 range. And if I turn off the canvas, you can see that difference? I like that. So I think I'm done with this one right now. I may add some more to it later. I'm going to save it, like I said, both ways, with the canvas layers at the top turned off and the canvas layers turned on, just so I can show the difference. You know, if you wanted to give it an interesting texture to it. I like using these Painterly canvas overlays on images like this. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope that you enjoyed watching this little scene come together, and I hope you enjoy working with the Savannah collections as much as you have the Dutch Masters. I have a lot more scenic things coming, so be sure, if you're not signed up for the mailing list on the Daily Texture website, be sure to sign up so you can get notified and you can get coupons for great discounts on the collections I put out. And when I put out my collections, they're always at an introductory price the first month for 50% off. And you can use a coupon along with that already discounted price. So that's the best time to get them, is at the discounted prices, is the first month when I put out new collections. So I hope you will enjoy working with these with your zoo and safari park animals and any other scenes you might want to create and use these backgrounds for. As always, thanks for watching. You guys have a great day.